Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today. Thank you so much for carving out a few minutes to join us. Our goal is to make this time as valuable as possible for you. And the way that we're going to do that is by just sharing best practices of what we're seeing in the industry across many other companies right now in terms of how they're keeping engagement strong and continuing their work to build a positive culture, even when we're making this transition to remote teams. So thank you so much for your time. It's such an important topic right now with everything going on. And so I'm really glad that you're able to join us here today. So we're going to go ahead and get started. My name is John Duisberg. I'm co-founder of Cooleaf, and I'm going to be sharing insights with you. And in addition to some of these insights, I really want to share some very tangible things that you can take away with and apply directly to your team in a positive way in terms of your own engagement strategy. So that's something that's really important. Take some best practices, some real world examples, give that to you so that you can apply that. And we're also really excited. So we have Leslie Balmforth with us today. She is the partner in charge of learning and development at Aprio. And she is going to be sharing about their experience as they've made this transition to working remote and just some of the lessons learned that they experienced making this transition. So thank you, Leslie, for being willing to join us today.
No problem.
So for our agenda, we're going to look at where we see the future of work, remote work specifically going, and then how we adjust, right? How do we adjust our engagement strategy with this new normal, so to say, right? And also being able for us to share some real world specific examples to bring you ideas, to give you ideas that you can use and apply directly with your teams. And then we're gonna give some time for Leslie to share about Aprio's experience making this transition and just some of the lessons learned as they've sought to make sure that they're keeping engagement strong during these times. So we will jump right in and actually how we'll jump right in is actually taking a step back. And looking at, well, what was happening before all of this pandemic, and what we saw was the trend of more employees going remote and working more remote was already taking place. And so Global Workplace Analytics, they did a lot of research and surveys with employees, and they actually found that a large number of people would take less pay, 37%, in order if they had flexibility to work remote. And then 80% of people had an expectation that this was a job perk. This is a perk for them in terms of their workplace. So this trend of going remote was already happening. This pandemic, COVID-19, this accelerated, obviously, greatly accelerated this trend, but the trend was already there. And so what we see happening as we move back to normal, and I use quotes around normal, is that this isn't going away, meaning employees are still going to have an expectation or a desire that they want to have flexibility to be more remote with their work. And so that's what we believe where that new normal is going to land. And so that means, okay, how do we adjust our engagement strategy to navigate this new normal and to accommodate that? And the good news is that there's some research and data that shows that employees can actually, with the right remote work policies, employees can actually be more productive and performance can increase. And it can actually be used as a way to attract talent, especially with younger, millennial demographics. So, and I think Leslie will be able to share more about this from their experience with Aprio. So there's some silver lining there, but we definitely see that this new normal, including a more remote work environment, and so therefore we need to adjust our engagement strategies. And so what does this mean as leaders, right? What does this mean for us on this call? Everyone on this call is as a leader or a manager inside of your organization. And for me, what can I be doing and thinking about every day in terms of how I can help? How can I care for and love our employees so that they can care for our customers? Right. So that's something that we just feel so important. How can I have that mindset? How can I help? How can I care for our people so that they can care for our customers? Right. And then how can I support our employees, not just to support that individual person, but also so that they are able to support each other. Right. So this is just a mindset of how we can lead during these times. And then how we can create resources or enable our team with resources so that they can provide help for one another. One example of this is that we have a client where they created a group page for employees where they could share ideas. They could share just tips and links to resources, right? And so this could be where you could pick up certain types of food, to picking up toilet paper, to tips on parenting, when you've got kids at the home and you're trying to work from home, to what are favorite, Netflix binge shows that they're watching, right? And so, we're creating space to organically let engagement happen. And as a leader, I'm constantly thinking, how can I help my employees? How can I care for my people so that they can care for our customers? And one of the ways I can care for my team, my employees, is to keep engagement strong. And part of any engagement strategy, any effective engagement strategy, we really focus on 3 areas. One is appreciation. So making sure that employees are recognized for those heroic actions, living out those core values, going above and beyond. Communication, you making sure that people there's awareness across the team, across the organization around what's happening, changes that are being made. So communication is really important. And then connection, something that we're really passionate about, is how do we make employees feel like they're part of a community? How do we get that alignment to the mission and the values of the organization? So these are kind of, we call 3 pillars of any engagement strategy. And then we're going to share some examples here for each one. So the first is appreciation and recognition. So this is so important. This is something that just we believe is fundamental. A part of any employee engagement strategy is to enable managers, or you as a manager, to recognize and appreciate your individual employees for those actions, living out those values. I wanted to share a term with you. So what we're calling is every manager should become that chief storyteller. Okay. And what we mean by chief storyteller is, so there are awesome things, wins that are happening every day that people may not know about, especially now when we're all remote, people are isolated. There are things that can fall through the cracks, and it's our job as leaders, as managers, to highlight those wins, those achievements that are happening, share those stories across the team and the organization. So if I look at my role as that chief storyteller, and I'm recognizing not just the end goal, but I'm recognizing the wins along the way, the short-term achievements that are happening on each day, each week, that I can share across the team. It's so meaningful for employees and the team as a whole. I also can recognize those employees that are supporting or caring for others, right? And so this could be stories about how employees are helping one another, each other from a coworker perspective, or how they're helping a customer, right? And during these times where people are making more heroic actions more than ever, sharing that not only shows appreciation for that person, but it reinforces it throughout the team. Another area that we see as a great opportunity to recognize is during this time is around learning and development. So as prompting and promoting employees to continue to grow their skill set, and for us to recognize that as leaders, we feel is really important from an engagement perspective. And then finally, just recognizing those who are recognizing others. This is a way to just reinforce the behavior, the type of culture that you want to see more consistently. But all this rolls up to me as a manager, as a leader, being that chief storyteller and highlighting these wins that are happening each day across the team that people may not know about unless we're recognizing in a public way for others to see that. Super important for the engagement strategy. So effective communication. So now we have, lots of different ways that we can communicate, whether it's picking up the phone and calling someone to doing a chat over Slack or texting, video. And so, I think a balance of all of these communication channels can be effective and important, but we also believe that it's best to match the type of communication with the type of work that's at hand, what's being done, right? So it may be that a quick chat is really helpful when I need an answer on something really quick, but it also could be distracting depending on the situation, right? So as a manager, being able to balance these different communication channels and know when to match up the type of communication with the type of task that's being done is a best practice. Another best practice when it comes to communication is continuing to have check-ins with the team. Ideally one-on-one check-ins, and still being able to have face-to-face interaction, even over video call here. So, maintaining that face-to-face interaction through the video check-ins, a critical piece to just continuing to make sure communication is strong across the team. And then finally, sharing the why behind the work, right? So making sure your team understands why this project is so important for the goal or for the strategy, or why these changes are happening. Sharing the why gets alignment and gets people motivated and willing to give that discretionary effort because they understand how this matters in the bigger picture. So sharing the why is part of that communication strategy that we focus on. And then connection. So connection, this is something that we are very passionate here at Cooleaf about, and wanted to introduce this idea of what we call virtual team challenges. And so team challenges, think of these as mini competitions with either a single team, multiple teams, or the whole company. Around different topics. So it could be challenges around health and wellness, or learning and development, or a core value, or the challenges could be related to business goals and metrics, right? You can get real creative around the types of challenges that you're bringing your team together around for collaboration. And then giving employees, as they're contributing and completing these challenges, giving them opportunities to earn points and prizes, whether it's them contributing photos or videos or ideas, that then just reinforces the engagement within the challenge. So we've, at Cooleaf, we've been in this, we have this unique position where we get to learn from a lot of organizations in terms of what's been most effective with their teams related to these challenges. And so we're constantly building this library of ideas that we can share with you. And so these are resources that we can share with you post our call today. But I just wanted to share a couple examples in best practices. So one would be, having a virtual coffee challenge, right? And so myself and a colleague, we're taking a screenshot of our virtual coffee, posting it, making space for employees to come together for collaboration. On the right-hand side of your screen, you're seeing a share your workplace, home workplace challenge where, everyone on our team, we're wearing our company shirts and, sharing and I got an opportunity to share my dog Summit as our new teammate. And so you get, it's kind of cool. You get to kind of know people on a more personal level, right? And you're bringing people together to collaborate and feel like they're part of this community. Idea share challenges, fitness step challenges for things where they're integrated to Fitbit and Apple Watch. You throw a competition out there, people will get into it and they love it. It is so funny to watch when you have this competition going. Even things like reducing stress and being, taking a step back during the day to be present and mindful. So there's lots of different challenge ideas around different topics that you can get really creative. We've developed a library. We can share these with you. And hopefully these are ideas that you can take to your team right away to help with that engagement strategy. A few other examples. So we've had some of our clients have done some really cool creative things around virtual events, right? So this could be a virtual happy hour. This could be where you have virtual game rooms, and there's lots of free tools out there. Showing a few on the screen here that employees can just take and run with, right? So they're free. They're way for just to have kind of that organic engagement connection that takes place through these virtual events. And you can schedule and sprinkle these in throughout the week or throughout the month, just to give people an opportunity to connect, right? And to share and to collaborate. Another idea around these virtual events is continuing to promote different types of skill development or learning. So there's a lot of free tools out there right now from a learning perspective that you can schedule. You can have employees take the lead in certain subjects in certain areas where they're sharing about their best practices and just kind of promoting learning in different topics. So just more ideas around virtual events that you can make part of your engagement strategy. And then finally, for us here at Cooleaf, we want to help. And we're not on the front lines, with the healthcare workers, but we wanted to do something, and so we are offering to design and manage an engagement strategy and recognition strategy at no cost. And we're going to do this up until July 2020. So this is a way for us to just to help over the next few months, and we can do this for up to 10 organizations. And what this would include is us enabling your team, your organization with the ability to do employee recognition, so that now those heroic actions, employees demonstrating those core values and going above and beyond are highlighted and recognized. We would organize 2 virtual team challenges each month for you. We would set up where employees are their work anniversaries, birthdays are celebrated, recognized. And then, there's a points program where employees can earn points to redeem for items in a rewards catalog. And that can be based on whatever budget you decide to make available for your team. So this is a small way that we want to help during this time. And we'll send out more information after the call today. And just let us know if you're interested, and we'd be glad to help you during this time. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Leslie Balmforth, and she's going to be able to share about Aprio's experience with the transition to going to remote and some of the lessons learned during that process. So, Leslie, I'll hand it over to you.
All right. Thank you, John. Some good stuff, great stuff with Cooleaf. That's a great deal. And everybody, please take advantage. We're a big fan of Cooleaf. Our folks love it. So anyway, with this crisis, a lot of companies and businesses were really caught off guard with the urgent need to work from home and really weren't prepared for it or had the tools in place technology-wise or knew how to best manage people in a remote work environment. But, we were very fortunate at Aprio. We're a CPA-led business advisory firm, and we started going down this road, I'm going to say around 3 or 4 years ago. And I'm going to spend the next 10, 15 minutes or so sharing about our experience and how we made the transition, and share some best practices that will help you now and when things go back to normal, and they will go back to normal. So anyway, why did we go down this road and decide to explore it? Well, there was 3 main reasons, really 4, but I'll talk about the 4th. So first one is work-life balance and Atlanta traffic. So our main office, we have 400 employees in our Atlanta office, and 200 employees in other areas in the Southeast and virtually. But as a CPA firm, we have a lot of deadlines throughout the year, and our team members work, we have a lot of long hours. And that's the nature of the industry. But in addition to that, we are located, as you Atlantans know, how traffic is on 285 and 400 at the Queen Building. And it's horrific. It's a terrible commute. Anywhere you are in Atlanta, it always seems to be at least an hour each way. And, so that's 2 hours a day round trip. And that was one major reason. And to boot, around 3 years ago, they announced that there's going to be major construction at that intersection that's going to try to make things better. But in the meantime, for the next 3 years or so, it's going to be, even worse. So that was one reason. And another one is generational demand. The workforce the majority of the workforce now is made up of millennials. And I do love millennials. I have 4 kids that are millennials, so I do love them. But, we were hearing from our millennial workforce, why can't we work at home? And to be honest with you, we didn't have a good reason. With all the technology available, there's not a reason why we shouldn't, pursue that. And we also use it as a recruiting tool. The market for accountants who want to work for a CPA firm is very tight and competitive. But if we could have a flexible remote work policy that would help us in attracting and retaining the talent we need to be, continue to be successful. And more than half of the accounting graduates are women who will be moms, and women who are going to be in the sandwich generation to take care of their loved ones. So, we wanted to give why not give 2 hours of that traffic nightmare back to individuals? So, and a fourth one that's not listed here, though, is also real estate. And I think we're going to see that now, as we're all working from home. I think, we're going to continue doing this, and it may not be every day, but we're probably going to be considering working from home a couple of days a week. So why do we need all that real estate? Why do we need all that office space? Let's look at how we can save money. And the next time when our lease comes due and we're looking for space, we're not going to necessarily need to, to rent out so much. And real estate in the Atlanta area and other metropolitan areas is very expensive. So look at hoteling and sharing space. So once we decided that we wanted to go down this road, we needed some buy-in. And buy-in, as you know, starts at the top. So we needed to talk to our partners and leadership team. So who best? A lot of times it's better to bring somebody from the outside who knows a little bit about more what's going on in the industry. And that's what we did. We brought in Jennifer Wilson from Convergence Consulting. She is really an expert in the accounting industry, and she works from a lot of data. She does a lot of surveys, and with the data that she provides, it pointed to the direction more and more firms moving to a flexible anytime, anywhere environment, and more and more of the talent pool demanding it. So she came, we hired her, she came in for a day, and she talked to our partners and our leadership team about how to manage in a remote environment, and how, what some best practices were, the technology that we needed, and more importantly, the need for trust. And the need to stop thinking about, if I can't see you, you can't be working. Get that out of your head. It's just, we have to, really trust our folks. She also emphasized the need for us to develop a remote work policy and guidelines on expectations. In other words, this is what we expect from you when you work from home. So if we move to the next slide, we'll see that governance and accountability was critical. So we created these 2 documents. The remote work policy really outlined, what we wanted to do. And it stated that employees are allowed to work at an alternative location at least 1 day a week. And any additional days may be authorized by their manager. We didn't go into this full force now, like you're going to be working from home every day. We were kind of weaning our folks, and really our leadership, we were weaning them so that, they felt comfortable that their staff were working from home. But we also emphasized to them, what, partners and leadership team, you've got to work from home too. You've got to set an example. So we had some eligibility requirements. In order for you to work from home, again, at least 1 day a week, you must be employed for 90 days, have a performance review that meets or exceeds expectations, and make sure you're accessible and responsive to phone calls, Zoom, Teams, or whatever that may be, in accordance with expectation levels set by their manager. So we really left it to the manager to decide what that work schedule was going to look like, if they approved more than 1 day a week, and really just to set the tone for their own specific team. The policy also talked about workspace, and that team members must have an appropriate work area in their home, free of distractions, that considers noise and interruption factors. Now I've been in meetings where kids are on laps. I mean, it's very difficult now to have those kind of ordinances, if you will. But when things go back to normal, we do need to have, proper workspace, and we'll have childcare, and we'll have the necessary items that we need to work as effective and productive as possible. But we also said that team members are required to provide their own equipment, but may use their Aprio laptop at their off-site location. In other words, we provide everybody with a laptop, with an Aprio laptop. And of course, they're going to be bringing those home. But if there's other If there's other types of equipment, we're asking them to buy that. And I'll talk about that in a little more. But we wanted to make sure also that any kind of equipment, especially Aprio owned, is make sure that it's kept safe, not in the car, not in the trunk, and that we're also not responsible for loss or damage of any employee-owned equipment or have anything to do with your homeowner's insurance. So we just kind of laid out certain rules and everything in the policy. It also addressed the importance of security and maintaining the confidentiality of PII, or personal identifiable information, and sensitive client data. As a CPA firm, we work with tax returns, personal financial statements, company financial statements. So there's a lot of sensitive and confidential information. And the last thing we want is anything to be left open, just thrown in the garbage, without being shredded, or bring stuff back to the office where it can be, shredded or recycled. So we wanted to make sure that we outlined it's extremely important to be sensitive to security and safekeeping. So once we finished, the remote work policy, we created a separate document called Best Practices, Guidelines, and Expectations. And the purpose of this document was to assist team members and their managers on how best to succeed in a remote work environment by providing guidelines. And one of the most important guidelines, as you can see, and I emphasized it 3 times, and John spoke of it too, is communication. That's probably the #1 guideline and most important feature of working from home. You need to be able to connect regularly, keep people engaged and feeling part of the team, and to keep everyone on the team updated on the best ways to contact each other. Make sure everyone updates their Outlook calendar with their remote work schedule and contact information. Now, we were really fortunate before this crisis in that everyone had a laptop and was already set up with their own Zoom account and Teams in Microsoft Office, and even had Zoom phones, which operates through your computer. We do not have a piece of phone equipment. I mean, my phone is my computer, and we have Zoom phones. That's another feature with Zoom that you can get outside of the conferencing thing, is you can get Zoom phones. So Outlook syncs with Zoom so that all your contacts in Outlook are right in Zoom. So literally, if we lose our computers, we're in big trouble because everything is there. And that's another cost saving. If you don't no longer have to buy these costly phone systems, you can literally use Zoom to help you in that regard. So making sure there's good communication is extremely important. It's really one of the leading manager best practices. What we do is we have a video daily check-in every day during this crisis. The leadership team, we have a call every morning at 9 o'clock, video required, so we can see each other, connect with each other. And at 2 o'clock, I have a video call with my team just to make sure that everybody knows what's going on and what's being accomplished, what are you working on, and just expectations. So also in the guidelines document, we outline individual best practices and what we each should do while we're working remotely. For example, ensure latency and bandwidth requirements are met by our internet provider. And I'll talk more about that in a little bit. But we also want to make sure that we set up a workstation at home similar to the office with multiple monitors, docking stations, printer, so we can work efficiently and effectively. And again, we supply the Aprio laptop, but if anybody wants additional monitors and the docking station, which most of the people do, they're paying it for themselves. And also set up a quiet environment free of distractions. And this is important. Make sure I know it sounds, natural, but make sure you shower, dress professionally when you're on the video calls, and arrive on time for work. You're still working, you just happen to be at home. So it's important to establish a routine. So if we go to the next slide. So once we had, we got buy-in, we knew we wanted to go down this road, we wrote a policy, we established guidelines, we had training. And the first people we trained, the first people that we got buy-in from were the partners in leadership. Again, we went over the policy and guidelines with them. We wanted to make sure that we got their buy-in and we adjusted them accordingly. So before we launched anything, that was, very important. So then what we did was we had training. And in the training, we reviewed what the policy and the guidelines were. We trained on the remote tools, which at the time was Skype, but now we train on Zoom, Teams, and ShareFile. And we train on how to connect to the network from a remote location with VPN, virtual private network, which you can, which is great because it's like you're in your office. You see exactly as if you're in your office. And Citrix, and we describe what programs and platforms worked better with what environment. We also provided minimum requirement information on bandwidth and latency. Again, I spoke about that earlier. And what that is these are the minimum requirements that you need by your service provider in order for your platforms and your programs to work effectively. So we provided links to test the speed of each of these so that they can check the performance of their internet provider and contact them to get it enhanced. So their connection would be optimum and they could perform their job more effectively and efficiently. So again, we wanted their workspace to be just like what they are, in the office with multiple monitors, everything that they need, good internet connection, and so on. We also provided recommendations of equipment to buy and where to get it from in case they wanted to purchase the monitors, the docking station. We told them the vendors, we told them, where to get them from, and instructions on how to connect the monitors and the laptops to the docking station. All that training was very important so that they had all the tools and the training that they needed to work effectively. So on the next slide, we'll talk about employee engagement. And really, I just want to talk about and really emphasize what John had mentioned. I mean, we've been with Cooleaf for several years. And John, I'm thinking it's probably at least 5 years we've been with Cooleaf because we wanted to establish a rewards and recognition program. But I see that it's just so important now as we're working remotely and to keep people engaged and to do those challenges. That's exactly what we've been doing. We've been doing those, virtual happy hours. We've been doing challenges on, a few weeks ago, we did send in pictures of your home workspace. We did pictures, last week we did send in pictures of your pet. I think next week we're gonna do a challenge. Can you guess who the baby picture is? We do wellness challenges. We do, just all sorts of things. We do Zoom videos, eating, like a lunch, and we just share, what are you eating? What shows are you watching? Do you have any good recipes? Virtual happy hour at 5 o'clock, talking about what we're drinking, just fun topics, something outside of business. Our wellness committee set up desk yogi, which are fitness, nutrition, yoga, and stress reduction 3-minute video breaks. And we're even talking about doing some virtual volunteering. So there are definitely creative and out-of-the-box ideas and best practices we can do to create a better virtual culture. We will get back to normal, and when we do, we'll all be in a better place, more educated, and more prepared to work remotely, and more prepared to instill a more engaging employee environment. And that's it.
Great, thanks so much, Leslie. And we want to be available to answer questions that you may have. We also wanted to let everyone know that we're going to be sending out a copy of the presentation today, a recording of it as well. So you'll have that as a reference. And then, we want to be able to help any way we can. So I think we're going to send out some of the procedures, some of the policies that Aprio put in place as an example, so you can have that for your team or your organization. We're going to be sending out examples of the challenges that you can use with your team, as well as if folks are interested in finding about how we can support them during this time in terms of the engagement strategy, in terms of from a Cooleaf perspective. So this is all information that we'll follow up with everyone post our call. But we really appreciate your time today and just spending that with us. And we're looking forward to just helping and being a resource for you in the future.